What up, viewers? What up? What up? Calc Soups here, and today we are entering the Friend Zone, my monthly gaming discussion where we play through a game each month, and then we talk about it. This month's game was The Outer Wilds, and I was pleasantly surprised by all the fun I had with it. Although I did have my frustrations, but we'll get to that. We'll start off like we usually start off, talking about what the game is, kind of what our expectations were going into it. We'll go through kind of the tutorial village, as I like to call it. What did we do first? What puzzles kind of stumped, or what puzzles did we do? Which one stumped us, and all that kind of stuff. Talk about the ending. There's a couple things outside of the game, like replayability and speedrunning, I think that are really kind of thematic to the game, and I want to talk about that. And then we'll kind of wrap it up with final thoughts. So that's it for this. So let's jump in and go ahead and meet everybody. What up? What up, everybody? What up, viewers?
Hey, Casey.
Who are you?
My name is Steven, and I've known Casey for quite a while.
Yeah.
Do you want more? Do you want more
No,
than
that's fine. We just quippy one liner, and we can jump right in.
Great.
Kevin Ermit.
Cool. Yeah, I'm Kevin. I don't know. I don't know how I got here.
Great.
And I'm Min. Yeah, I guess I don't have many qualifications. Just follow games journalism quite a bit, but
Sure. All right. Well, let's jump in and start discussing. So, I'm trying to think back. So, I recently played this, so I can kind of talk a little bit about like my expectations going in, and then I always like to just be like, what is this game like, or kind of draw some equivalencies as to the game. I didn't know much about the game going in, so I didn't have like too many expectations. I didn't even know what the gameplay would be like. So like that was so everything that I experienced was all for the first time. I definitely got some like Zelda-y vibes, and then I don't even know what kind of like I would definitely call it a puzzle game, but I don't know that.
Yeah.
A little bit of a
Yeah,
walking simulator, or
Yeah, I went in. Everybody told me to go in as blind as possible, so I did on my first playthrough. And I think that's really the best way to experience the game. But yeah, as far as like actual gameplay and stuff, I liken it to like, yeah, there's some Majora's Mask time loopy stuff going on there,
sure.
but there's also like the closest analog I come to is like a Myst game, or like some of these old
Yeah.
like puzzle, like walking first person puzzle games
Yeah.
where you're like finding bits of lore and learning how to solve puzzles. And yeah, like Myst is the closest analog I can really draw to it.
Sure.
I think Myst is a really good comparison with sort of that like feeling of walking around, and it's a really tight. Well, I think maybe Casey, I'll let you like describe the overall game before.
No, I
we get
think I
too
mean
much
that's what we're getting into. Like um, yeah, the yeah, I wouldn't have thought of Mist. I mean, I definitely got like I think we were one like do 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 from like being a full on Zelda game, or at least some of the things felt like I was solving like a Zelda puzzle or something like that. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, the puzzle design for sure.
yeah. Um, so then we actually get our hands on it. I definitely loved like tutorial village, as I'm calling it. Like I think it did like a really good job of like giving me things to do and like figuring out all the mechanics. I definitely forgot my mechanics
Yeah,
along the way, but like
yeah,
it was always
Yeah.
good. It was a good way to like
one
kind of tip my toe into it.
yeah, one thing I'll say about the tutorial village, it does a good job of teaching you the buttons and stuff, but learning to fly that little ship is nothing like flying the actual ship.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
But it does tell you, I guess, what buttons do what when you get to your ship, and then you're supposed to just crash it into crap and
Yeah.
Oh,
and
real
get
quick,
better
how
and
are we
better
gonna
and better
handle
as you go.
spoilers? Are we gonna like?
Oh, this is
have
full
a
spoilers. I have spoilers.
full spoilers?
Yeah, I
Okay,
have.
cool. That's good to
Yeah.
know. I wasn't sure if I should
Yeah.
skirt things. 'Cause
Oh
this
no,
game
this
is
is.
so like if you're listening to this, stop and just go play the game if you think you might be at all interested in it, because like
Yeah.
everything is a spoiler, and any spoiler could potentially diminish your enjoyment of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Like,
this is full. Yeah. That's
yeah,
how
like
I'm kind of bringing it. Like this
yeah,
is full spoilers and yeah.
yeah, progression is 100% knowledge based, and I guess a little bit ship flying skill based, but
Sure.
Yeah.
there's no like
When
you can yeah, you can just finish the game if you know what to do on your first loop. So
question, when did that ship actually finally click for you guys?
Sounds
When
like
did
you
the
kinda-
the flying click? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I think the mechanics were kind of there. I feel like I wanted a forward and back button. Like I know we had up and down, but there was definitely times where I'm just like especially when you're flying to the sun or whatever. Like just shoot me backwards as quickly as possible, please. I don't want to fly into the sun.
you have the
There-
retro rockets, right?
Were there?
Yeah. If
Oh.
you go into the landing view where you're looking at through the bottom of the ship, it actually changes your control scheme to be parallel to whatever planet that you're orbiting.
Okay.
So there is a forward back, and it becomes like a kind of two-dimensional control scheme.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
like that's when it finally clicked for me, was when I realized looking down through that landing view actually changes how you pilot. Everything became smoother after that.
That's so interesting because I literally never used the landing view ever. Like I used it like one time when I was being shown how to use it, and then I discarded it and never used it again.
Yep. Yeah, I think I was mostly the same. Like, yeah, like
It's so interesting.
yeah, no, that's pretty cool. So we go through tutorial.
for me the moment that it all clicked for me in terms of like actually flying the ship was, I think, the moment after I flew into the sun like 45 times trying to land on the sun station, and I just like
Sure.
eventually got pretty good.
Okay.
That's the get good moment if you want to try and land on the sun station hard mode.
Yeah.
That's definitely like I already had a pretty good grasp of it by the time I was trying to do that, but that's definitely when I got good at flying that ship.
So I guess I never got like. Eventually, I like scoured the planet. So one of the things I want to talk about is just like what everybody kind of did first. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, you get through the tutorial village. I died a couple times because it's like jumped into the water just to like see what happened, and you die instantly. So I was just like, oh, I died in tutorial village. But
Oh, wow.
but yeah, like first adventures. So like the first thing I do when I finally get to the ship and like is like first thing I do is like go track down whatever just launched. Like that's my first thing is like go check that out.
You gotta do a superhero landing.
And then
Wait for it.
yeah, so I go follow the
Superhero
tracker.
landing. Yeah,
Um,
that's really hard on your knees.
and then after that kind of didn't lead anywhere. I was like, let's go check out the interloper. So that was like my first foray
wow.
into the world. Was just doing those kind of things.
Dang. I guess yeah, I guess you could call my approach to this game kind of lawful good. Because I got in there and they're
Moon,
like,
right?
hey, it's
The moon.
yeah, they're like everybody's like, hey, it's your first trip, take it easy, just try and go to the moon. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go to the moon, try landing on a different body. I got to the moon, read the stuff there.
That's what I did. I did the moon first.
Oh wow.
All right, for me, I did get to the moon first, but the first thing I did was forget to put on my suit, walk out of the spaceship, and then suffocate. And
Oh
die.
yeah,
Yeah.
the number of times I died by forgetting to put on the suit. I got really good. Like
Yes.
Pamela would sit next to me when I was playing it, and every time we'd get in the spaceship the first time around, we'd all go suit, 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 suit.
Yep.
Like as a reminder, like suit, suit, suit. Because I died quite a few times to forgetting to put on the suit.
Same.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah,
So
I did Moon, and then I think I did Giants Deep.
Same.
Okay.
Same.
I sort of
Same.
a similar thing to Casey's. Like, yeah, moon. Read all the stuff on the moon, and then okay, well then I saw that thing launch overhead, so I want to go see what that is. I kind of tried to chase the probe down, but once I realized like, oh, this is way the fuck, like, then I decided to check out the like space station that it
Okay.
launched from, and that was sort of, from there it all spiders out into all the plot hooks
Yeah.
and threads on the conspiracy map. Um,
Yeah, which is like the main way that I like interacted with the game. Like I was playing through and like someone was like, "Have you done the planet like have you used the planet information screens?" And I was like, "No, I just only look at the conspiracy like board." Like that was the main way I interacted with like the content and the lore. Is it
I
like
mean,
yeah,
it's really good. I mean, it sort of shows you clusters. There's like a bunch of little sub stories, and
yeah,
it groups them all really nicely, and you can like pick what's interesting to you and know kind of how to, where the clues are pointing you to keep pursuing that line of inquiry and stuff.
yeah.
I thought it was cool.
And it
Did
does a
did
pretty good sub.
did everybody save the Dark Bramble for last because of how scary it was?
I mean, I did fly in there and nope out of there at one point fairly early.
Oh,
I poked my head in there, saw that anglerfish, and was like, "Nope, I'll come back. This looks scary."
Yep.
that was actually I think Dark Bramble was the first planet I would like say that I completed or something like that. Like yeah,
Really?
yeah, like
Did you find the vessel first and stuff?
Yeah, it had
I-
that whole temporal loop area. You had to solve that mystery of how the quantum tunnels work in order to navigate it.
not as I mean you
Did you just brute force the maze?
yeah, I think that's what I did. Like yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so like first thing, yeah, I think I went all the way down the track where it's like follow the light sources and then find the third because I think I was following the echoes. I think so that was like I'm following the
Yeah.
God, what are the distress beacons and like that's what yeah.
That's true. I did get in there and find the pod with the distress beacon
Yeah.
Yeah.
fairly early, because that was one of the first things I did
Mm.
after sort of the initial ones. That I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go look at all these distress beacons.
Sure.
That's like one of the big hooks.
Yeah.
But then, like, man, I didn't get, like, I didn't find the vessel until basically I was ready to finish the game, pretty much. Like I had most of my
The vessel. You mean the one in the Dark Bramble?
Yeah.
Yeah, the big ship. They
Mhm.
call it the vessel.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
The ship that the escape pods launched from. That all of the Nomai got to the solar system.
Oh, I just remembered what the interloper was.
Yeah.
I had forgotten. I was thinking it's the little comet, but
It is the comet.
I mean, yeah.
Wait, then which one's the second moon?
That's the quantum moon.
Quantum moon.
The quantum moon. I
Yeah.
became obsessed with the quantum moon.
Quantum moon is great.
Yes.
I mean, that's how you beat the game.
The quantum moon.
So cool.
I stumbled upon that like I would see it and I would be flying to it, and so I figured it out like after a couple times of flying it and flying at it, and then losing sight of it and being like, there was one time I think where I like went to go crash land on it, but because of like the angle of I went to like land, so when I turned vertical, I like lost sight of it and then it like disappeared and it was like, wait, I was there, I was on it. And
Oh, man.
so that was really satisfying. Like I was like going through the atmosphere and it like disappeared like in the clouds or something. I was so pissed a couple of times and I was like, why?
Yeah, that's like going into its atmosphere obscures your vision of it, so it disappears right as you're about to hit it if you don't have a picture.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take a picture of it with your
Which is like-
probe.
Again, I think my playthrough was just like so straight laced. I didn't do like any of the stuff out of order. I went to the Tower of Quantum Knowledge and learned how to take pictures of things and stuff. First,
Oh yeah,
and
that
then
was
I was like,
so great.
and then I was like, okay, now I know how to get on the moon, and like, yeah. But I liked those towers of quantum knowledge.
Yeah, like yeah, there was I was telling Josh that like I feel like there was like I had somewhat of like an act 2 problem where it's like okay, first thing I do is like go out and just like go down every path I can and then like find all the information But like after it starts closing down and I want to like start following paths, I just got like a little frustrated that like maybe I wasn't using the. I think I just gathered as much information as I could, and even with like the conspiracy board, I like couldn't follow the threads to like get to where I needed to next to like continue down a path or something. So like some of that just kind of got to me because I think I was just like, what do I want to do next? And like, okay, let's go see what Giant Deep has to offer. And then it's like, I see a frozen jellyfish in the thing, and I'm like, what do I do with this? I don't know how to interact with this. And so I just
Yeah,
like,
there's not really much to do with that thing.
yeah,
The jellyfish, I think I had to look up. There's like 1 or 2 points in which I was just totally lost, and the jellyfish I was really frustrated by because there wasn't like a super great like signal of like this is working, or so I was just like, am I doing the right thing? That was like one of the things where I got frustrated and eventually had to look it up. The jellyfish, I remember.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did get that one, and that one took me forever, but eventually it was like one of the few things that I felt like I could do on Brittle Hollow. It's like Feldspar sends you to find that jellyfish, and you can like go inside of it and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
yes. Well, then even so, like I said, I did the Dark Bramble, so I get the whole jellyfish thing, and it's like you can survive inside of it. And so for the when I actually get to the point where I could use that knowledge, I'm like trying to fit my ship into the jellyfish, and I'm just like, it's not working. This is so stupid.
Yeah, that's not how it works in Giant Deep. It's so weird.
Yeah, and so I'm like, what is this? Is dumb. And then like finally I like let my ship explode after it gets shocked twice or whatever, and then I'm just like, wait, why don't I just go in like myself? just like swim up there, and I was like, oh, this is what they were trying to get me to do the whole time.
It was.
There's a few things
that wasn't really intuitive.
But for the most part, a lot of this, I was really pleased that a lot of the stuff, like you can kind of like trial and error, like just the way that, like the gravity works and everything. Like there were a lot of places where I, especially like Brittle Hollow, I hated moving around Brittle Hollow.
Yes.
And so I would just fly the ship around inside of Brittle Hollow.
I
Nice.
I still don't know the actual way to get into the Black Hole Forge because
Nice.
I flew my ship up there, landed it upside down on the gravity ceiling, and got out. It was hard.
Nice.
Yeah, I would just
I
like
still don't-
smash the ship into like wedge it into corners to like get out to get to the different platforms because I was so
that's
pissed
like
off.
That's like one of the few things. Like I still don't know how to get to like the raised Black Hole Forge because
You have to go to a different planet and flip the switch.
I know how to bring the Black Hole Forge up. I just mean like to actually get up onto that ceiling.
Yeah.
So just fly up there.
Yeah, just to smash your ship. And
I think I did. I think that did that too with the Hanging City. It's like I can see it over there, and like they were trying to like make me do these jumping puzzles with like the warp gates or whatever, and I'm like, I'm just gonna like warp at that. Or I'm just gonna like dive at that thing and use the gravity to like throw me onto the long bridge. So it's like, okay, I guess I'm in the Hanging City now.
Yeah, I mean, I have to get like the way gravity and momentum work in the game is amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
it's really satisfying. I think just kind of the gravity plays into sort of the mechanic overall, which is they gave you a very small but highly detailed set of things to do. So it feels really satisfying when you like learn how to manipulate the gravity or something like that. When you like get good at that, it's sort of in the same kind of way of like Dark Souls or those kind of games where like it has a mechanic that that is extremely rigid. It's not super wide, but as you get good at that thing, it's like a skill that like you know how it's going to behave every time. It's not like, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It's like,
and I guess going back to Zelda, it sort of reminds me of especially the puzzle design in Breath of the Wild, where it's sort of like, here's a world that has rules and here are tools, and how you sort of leverage those tools in the world is kind of up to you to a point. Like the world will behave consistently no matter what you do in it.
Yeah, it's not like it's not like they were waiting for you to like throw the specific bomb at the specific thing. It's like there's a bunch of ways to get around this.
Actually,
and it just all behaves consistently, and that is, again, that's really satisfying. And as computers get more powerful, I think we're seeing that
Yeah.
more and more in games like Brett. Like again, I know that we have privately talked a little bit about this, but like compare Red Dead. It was really hard to play Red Dead Redemption 2 after Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild really let you like do a lot of missions kind of however you wanted. And then you get into Red Dead Redemption 2 and it's like, please go stand on this one point. Like, oh no, you need to move a couple of meters over. And
Yeah.
that I know was like after Breath of the Wild, with like having those tools, and it feels really frustrating to move into a game which is a little bit more linear as opposed to more, I don't know,
Yeah.
simulatory.
Yeah, just sort of different experience, but yeah, very much like a simulation, a sandbox, more so than and like
Yeah.
we're getting our sandboxes are getting more sandboxy,
Yeah.
basically.
I was
Have you
waiting
guys ever played
for.
Go ahead.
I was waiting for. I don't know, cause I got like the roguelike feel, and I probably shouldn't have. Of like, I'm waiting for like this like permanent progress to unlock. So that's what I was like. So like on the sun, like all the stuff on the Ember Twin, where it's like, oh, there's a cactus blocking my path. It's like, will I eventually get something where I can like do something to the cacti to get past it? Like I think I like waited for the sand to rise so I could run over the cactus, but then I got like crushed under something, and I was like, okay, so I like there's not enough time for me to run across the sand while it's being raised once I get past the cactus. So I was like waiting for permanent progress to unlock at some point, and then eventually I get like, oh, maybe I just needed to do something a little bit faster, or timing was a factor, or something like that.
Yeah,
I would say the game does do that, but not in its mechanics. Like I'd say, like the game does have sort of a roguelike feel, but the permanent progress you unlock is knowledge.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
it's knowing, like coming back and being like, all right, on this loop, I now know how to do this, so I can do it. And I think that's maybe why I had such sort of a traditional or like linear path through the game, because I had a few leaps in logic and stuff, but for the most part, it was like finding a new piece of knowledge that taught me how to do something sort of felt like I was unlocking that puzzle a little bit.
totally.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though it wasn't like a thing that existed in the programming of the game, it existed in the way that I interacted with the game as a medium, which
sure,
was cool.
the entire like giant steep of like eventually I think I got onto like the right path once I had like started like sitting down and actually thinking about things, as opposed to just like, I'm gonna explore over there. Like I don't know where, I forget where the tornado models are, but it's like I get to the end of the whatever it is.
Oh yeah, they're in like the lab, one of the laboratories.
Yeah,
they're in the station on Brittle Hollow. The
upside down
glass dome.
Yeah,
the glass dome station on the south pole of Brittle Hollow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, there's a model, and it's talking about there's two different types of tornadoes, and one goes up, and most of them go up, and some go down, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's the knowledge I needed this whole time.
I love like it feels like archaeology. It feels like you're learning knowledge about the way the world works. That the world never stopped working that way, but it's like that sense of discovery is just something really. I think it's where a lot of the magic to this game, to me, is, because it's like, yeah, that's the way that the tornadoes have always worked, but now I know that that's how they work, and now I can leverage them in the world. Just cool.
Yeah, and you can like have that happen accidentally to you, and you can. There's like a bunch of ways to discover it where it's like, oh, this one goes down.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean?
And most of those puzzles like that, especially the big ones, like you have to get down there to get the coordinates for where the eye is. So that's like essential for finishing the game.
Yep.
And like a lot of those, like, yeah, there's the thing on the Brittle Hollow map. I think there's at least 2 other spots that talk about, because like I think Feldspar will talk about it at one point, and I think there's one. I don't remember. There's like usually there's like several clues.
Yeah.
And they're like given in slightly different contexts, but you can kind of get that information, at least for the big puzzles, from multiple places, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up Antechamber with how
what's that?
It's one along the lines of games where the rules, the laws of the game is consistent throughout the entirety of the game. But
Is
you took
Antichamber another game, man? Sorry.
yes.
Okay.
It was an indie game that came out back in 2013
Okay.
ish. A little
Almost 10
after
years ago.
Yeah.
yeah, a little after the Portal 2, I think.
Okay.
Interesting.
So it's one of those first-person puzzlers, but it's a great game if you guys haven't played it. But it's along the same vein as Outer Wilds in that you got to figure out what the
Solution
interior
is,
rules of the world is,
Yeah.
and then none of it is ever explicitly explained to you.
Did anybody have those, like, I don't know, like, we talked about the Zelda themes. Like, one of the things too was like there was definitely hard moments where I was like, this feels like I'm really scared right now, or like,
Yeah.
like just something about
There's
this, like, really, like, yeah.
No,
like,
there's a
outright
distinct like
scary stuff. Yeah.
yeah, there's a distinct like there are portions of the game that are designed to make you scared or uneasy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the anglerfish, of course,
Yeah.
are sort of a more, one of the most overt ones. But even like getting to the core of the interloper, I found pretty scary too, especially there at the center
Yes.
of it.
Yeah. But that was when that's when I discovered that, I guess, there's another, like, knowledge discovery moment of, like, that I probably should have picked up sooner, but that not all places where the rocks are there is ghost energy. And so, like, that interloper is when that all, like, kind of clicked, where I was like I need to do something different here. Like, it's like there's something more to the interloper, and I don't know which path to go down, but all of them say, like, there's ghost energy nearby. And then it's like, okay, let me just pull out my camera or something like that. I'm like, oh, I'm not seeing the green shimmers here, but I do see it down this tunnel. It's like, can I go down that tunnel? And so finally, again, like, that knowledge unlocks where it's like, no, not all places where those crystals are means that they're deadly. It's just there's usually ghost energy near them. Yeah, I don't know. It was just like, it was like, oh, so all those places aren't as dangerous as I thought they were.
Yeah. This game is absolutely phenomenal at creating different types of atmospheres where you really get the feel of space in both its majesty and, like, terrifying nature, where your ship will like blow up, and then you'll be just in your suit, slowly running out of oxygen, floating, and suffocating.
Man,
this is how I'm gonna die, or being trapped in the sand on the twins.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying. But at the same time, you have really beautiful moments, like with Chert, I think. If you talk to him, like, in a specific dialogue tree, he'll be like, come down and watch the stars die.
Chert is heartbreaking because he's the one character that has, like, really distinctly different things that he'll say to you depending on where in the loop you talk to him.
Oh wow!
Which one is he?
He's the one on the Ember Twin, the one that plays the drums, the little guy. And he, like, unlike the other ones, because he's sitting there and he's looking at the sky and seeing the stars go out. So he's also the closest to the sun. So he puts together that the sun is going to blow up before it happens. And you can talk to him at different points during the loop, and he will sort of have like he'll be panicked at some point. He has like a full arc that he goes through where first he's like, what's going on? And then he's like, no, that can't be right. And then, eventually he's like, oh my God, we're all going to die. And then eventually he's like, hey, let's just sit and watch the sky. There's only a few dots.
Really
there's only a few dots left up there.
Sometimes when you see that supernova coming, you want to run away, like, not this time, I'm so close. And then other times you're like, maybe I'll just sit down. This is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just
Sometimes
watch
you're
it
just
happen.
you're on the surface of a planet or something, and you're just like, well, I guess I'll just watch it happen this time.
Yeah.
I think I was on the sun,
Ooh.
the sun station or something. One of the times that it blew up.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah,
I
the
think
sun
the sun
station.
station gets. Doesn't it get when it expands to red giant? Doesn't it eat the sun station?
Yeah, it like falls into the surface of the sun or something at one point.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't the sun station then. It was. I just remember something like seeing it go blue, and just like being really close to it and just getting like
It
eaten
might
up
have
by
been
it.
the
On one of the Ash twins or something.
Yeah,
or
Yeah,
the
maybe
the
so.
white hole station.
Or the like being inside the like a lot of the times when I'm just like inside of a planet. I think that's actually how I mostly experienced it. Was like I was inside of something, and then I hear the music going off, and I'm like, okay, I gotta finish up whatever I'm doing. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that
can we talk
sounds
about
like
how stressful that music is?
that I think this is a great segue because I wanted to make a point to talk about the music in this
Yes.
game. Because I think as much as I love pretty much every aspect of this game, I think the music is my favorite part of it.
Yeah.
The music is really strong in like a similar way to like in the last I don't know if you guys ever remember Majora's Mask, but the music
Yeah.
changes during like the last like minute or so, like right before the moon collides, and it like becomes really different. And Outer Wilds and Majora's Mask, I think in a time loop thing, you sort of have to have your music be super strong as it gets to that like countdown almost,
Yeah.
because the like level of anxiety, like man, during that doing that final loop to like you know, where you got to be like frame perfect in so many things in order to like have just enough time to get there, just feels so good. Like man, with that music going as you get like closer and closer to where you're trying to get in Dark Bramble, but you don't want, you like, you know, the music's like coming at you, and you know that you
Well,
got to go faster, but
one
you
of the
can't.
one of the more interesting things too is like the game has detection for when you. I think it's when you grab the power core out of the Ash Twin project.
Yeah.
And it actually, because it starts playing a different version of that final music earlier while you're like flying to Dark Bramble.
Yeah, I actually failed on my first attempt, and like I think I hit the thrusters too soon on the you know, I took the warp core out and I go through the Dark Bramble, and like I hit the thrusters too soon and an anglerfish eats me, and then I go back to the main menu and I'm like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
well, that's that sort of all ties into like, again, the world has rules that it works in, and even that is like, yeah, you unplugged your time loop engine.
Yes.
So you really died that time.
Oh no, maybe I didn't. I was really nervous that I was gonna fail, but I think I managed to get it, because I don't ever remember getting kicked out to the main menu like that.
Okay.
I've gotten kicked out of the main menu also when you break space time.
Oh yeah.
How do you break space time?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh, you fire that drone on that experiment.
There's a couple ways to do it. Yeah, the drone's easiest.
Which drone?
So when you figure out the holes have a split-second time difference.
Oh,
it's in the high energy lab. You can actually manipulate it so that you make it so that there's two drones if you interrupt the experiment at the right time, and then that breaks space time, and literally like your vision cracks and it breaks and the credits roll.
Oh wow!
It says you have broken space time, and then the credits roll and they're playing the main Outer Wilds theme, but with kazoos.
Oh my god!
Really,
nice.
It's really great.
Oh man, yeah. Speaking of the like I said, you know, first thing I do is go out and like follow the drone for the first time, and then I turn on my scope and like turn back to go back into the system, and like everything lines up perfectly, and you hear all the music going at once, and I get the little flash. It's like, ding, you got a trophy or whatever, and I'm just and I'm like, it's like, yeah, I get the whole chorus, like everybody's lined up all at once. It's like, oh man, this is perfect. Like this is
It was
I got
really
chills the very first time.
really
yeah.
special when you line it. Yeah, you realize like, oh, they're all spread out, but they're all playing the same song together.
Yeah. So I had like a thing for like ending prediction. Like I don't know. Every time I did something, like every time I had the aha moment, I was like, okay, this is gonna get me like the ending, and like so because I had no concept of like what the ending would actually be. So like
Yeah.
I get the coordinates,
and it was very different.
and it was not. I never predicted it right.
Nope.
Because it's like I get the coordinates and I was like, this is what I need. So I go straight to the vessel and I'm like, I plugged in the coordinates. Why isn't it working? And I'm like, why isn't it working? And so and then I realized like, oh, I need the core or whatever. And I like the last thing I figured out was, I mean, probably everyone the last thing they figured out was like how to get to the Ash Twin project. But
Yeah.
but it was just like I keep getting like, I keep putting the tablet on the my first thought was I needed to, because I knew it was a time loop, and I was like, what is going to take me like 20 minutes to do? And I was like, I need to take all the tablets and put them on the correct planet. it's like, so I'm like rushing, and like when I think I did that, I took one of the tablets and I like put it on like the correct planet, and I was like, there's no sound or anything that like confirms that I did anything right.
Oh,
like,
the vision tablets.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna put them on. And like, there's no sound that like determines that I've done it right. And I'm like, okay, this isn't it. This is definitely not it.
That's funny.
Speaking of which, going into the core and seeing all of the actual masks where those visions have been taking you the entire time, and seeing that there was like an extra person with a lit mask.
Oh yeah, that was something that that Pamela and I noticed pretty early on. Was like, wait a minute, there's someone else out there who's looping.
You talked to Gabbro, right?
Yeah.
The third person who's looping.
Yeah, I guess there's three.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's three. There's three lit masks.
It was like, huh.
That was really. Oh yeah. Speaking of which, the Gavro was that his name?
Gabbro's the guy on Giant's Deep. That's also
the hammock man.
Yeah, the hammock man.
Casey's problem with the Act 2 progression. That was one of my hangups too. Was that there's a hidden mechanic where you can just speed up, like just go to sleep.
Oh yeah.
And he's hiding it in a dialogue tree, and like I went through a good like 20 some hours before I figured out to talk to him again, just so I could figure out how to meditate.
I didn't find out about that.
What's the purpose of meditating?
You pass time.
When you know you've messed up and like you need to wait for another loop.
Oh, then you just go crash into the sun.
Yeah, I mean that's what I did. I didn't find out that was the thing until until after. But I mean, it's useful for like, okay, if you want to do a loop, a specific thing, like, oh, you want to get into the Tower of Quantum Knowledge on Brittle Hollows, you need to wait for it to fall through the black hole.
Yeah.
Like, rather than stand there for 18 minutes or something, you can just pass the time so you're closer to it and stuff like that. Yeah. That's more what
I very rarely found myself if I knew that I had something like later that I needed to do, I would try to like, well, I'll do this errand first while I'm waiting, and then I'll do this. I didn't know there was a meditate mechanic.
As soon as
I found out about it after I beat the game.
Yeah, as soon as I'd like figured out everything has to do with the Ash Twin, it was like, okay, I gotta wait for this temple to. I think even then, like I didn't use I think I only used the meditate when I was like trying for the final, to finish everything. But otherwise, I was just like, I would just hang out on the Ash Twin and like run around while the ash slowly goes away, and then I would go to whatever temple I needed to like warp me to wherever. So. Yeah. So we got we've all done it. We've gotten the ending. We plugged in the code, and then we just kind of play through the ending. I thought that was we got to talk about just the actual ending, right?
Yeah.
I think that it really is showing sort of the maturity of video games as video games sort of mature a little bit, that some of these games can be melancholy. Like, you don't have to end in like ultimate you didn't stop the universe you didn't stop the sun from exploding. You didn't like save your little
You can say the
solar
princess,
system.
yeah.
Yeah, but you like sort of still feel accomplished. There's something very like um it's I guess sort of like melancholy, but I think it just shows like the maturity that as we sort of reach a point where video games really are art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a big way, beyond like their art direction. Like, it told a story and it made you feel something, which is really the point that
Yeah.
art is. And it was really like a sort of a mature kind of theme. I don't remember a lot of the dialogue from the end, but I just sort of remember this like feeling of community and
Yeah.
like disparate pieces, again, like with the way that like they're all playing different instruments as part of a thing that really comes together.
It's just like, yeah, when you get the Nomai there, and they're also like, they add an instrument to your song that you've never heard played in the song when you
The
play it
piano.
that last time. Yeah, they had that pianos.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just, talking about themes and stuff, and yeah, the Outer Wilds, especially in the ending, gave me a really specific feeling, and it ties into all of the things that Steven was describing. And to me, it also, like, I'm looking at, you have that main title screen with the guy by the fire there, and it's like, it just gives me the feeling sort of sitting around a fire with friends in the woods and looking at the night sky.
It feels
You
like
know?
home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
it's like
just
you're part of something that is both intimate but infinitely bigger than yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's like, you get to the end, and yeah, it's a melancholic experience, because you're like, it's like, what, you thought you were gonna save your solar system? Like, look out there. From the very beginning of a loop, you can see stars exploding in the sky. What? You're you're gonna stop your one star? You're gonna be the last star in the sky? It's like, this is so much bigger than you, and yet it still feels important that you're here at the end of it all
Yep.
with these people witnessing it happen.
It speaks really much to sort of like the the experience of living and of growing up in a way where like you kind of like you watch the other people's stars wink out, and there is kind of like, as especially when we're young, there is kind of this feeling that like we're not going to die. There like comes a point where you realize, for me it happened when I was like
Yeah.
25 or so, and it sent me on an anxiety spiral where like you realize, oh, like I'm gonna die at some point, and
Mhm.
so is everybody else, and there's nothing that you can do to stop it. And
Yeah.
the game
that-
kind of Outer Wilds really has a lot of that kind of going through it. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna die, and
Yep.
but
Yeah,
so
it
is
speaks
everybody else.
it speaks to that feeling of inevitability, but it also, yeah, it's, I feel like, and this could be just me interpreting, because this game is artistic, and I feel like there are a ton of valid interpretations of it, but for me it's like, yeah, it speaks to that feeling of inevitability, and it also says that it's okay that
Yep.
things end like that,
Hmm.
you know
Yeah.
and that it can still be, if not joyous, it can still be good in its own way.
Absolutely.
And it's like you definitely feel the adventure along the way, because it's like everything boils down to this like 30 minutes. You just played like 30 hours of this game, and it boils down to like this 30 minutes of like, yep, it's ending, and like this is good, and it's okay. But it's like I feel like there's a sense of like reflection again, because we're talking about death, like the sense of reflection of like, hey, it took me several hours, it took me dozens of hours to get to this point, and then it's like reflected, like everything's all there, so you get the cyclical nature of like everything that was there at the beginning is that there at the end, and the adventure along the way.
Yeah, it does a really excellent thing that not a lot of video games do. That really encourages you to reflect on your experience at the end of it.
Yeah.
And not in a way that like says like sit down and think about this, but just like you're just sort of by the situation, you're just sort of encouraged to really look back on the journey.
Well, it's like, whenever you see like a really good movie, like I know there's a lot of
Yeah.
like really good sort of like mature themed movies that I remember like growing up and watching with friends, and then just like being sort of forced to discuss them, not discuss them, to discuss them,
Yeah.
um, to really like there's something in there that you have to talk about,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
um and this is I played 2 games like back to back this last summer that did that for me. This was one of them, and then Disco Elysium right
Okay.
after that, which like, I've been like dying to talk about it with people for a long
Sure.
I
time because
know.
it's the
Look at
same kind of it's the same kind of feeling of like, your like your guts are torn out, and you like really just have to like sit back and think about it for a minute. So I sort of got like hit with the double whammy, and I don't know like if Disco Elysium on its own would have been as powerful if not having just finished Outer Wilds like, a few weeks prior. um
yeah.
Yeah. No, I
I mean,
yeah.
you guys also know like I mean, I've been begging for people to play this game and then
Sure.
talk with me about
mhm.
it
Yep.
for over a year now. Um,
Yeah.
and it's like it's really nice to have this conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just really like it it made me want to. Yeah, it just had such a profound effect on me that I just wanted to talk about it.
And I had the moment of joy at the end of the credits when the um
Yeah.
when my when my my drone goes flying by.
Oh yeah.
And that was
Oh
like
yeah.
I was like, because like during some of the times it's like I'm just sitting
Yeah.
here, I'm listening to music, and I'm like, I want to recall my drone, and it's like, nope, your drone's gone. And then just like the moment of like, you know, at the end, I was like, oh, that's a good like cherry on top of just like,
Yeah.
hey, that's a thing I did, and the game knows that. Like again, all
Yeah.
the mechanics kind of come into sync, and the game's just really smart.
One note on the music, real quick. Andrew Pralo, the composer, had said in
Mhm.
an interview, um, it's sort of a representation of how music can bring together no matter the distance, and it helps this huge universe feel a little bit more like home.
Yeah.
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 And
And
that's very much in the they're spread across the solar system, but they're all playing the same song.
And the
Exactly.
instrumentation too, it's like they're very folksy Americana, like
Yeah.
it's the harmonica, the banjo,
Steel drum.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
some drum, a clarinet, I think. Is it a clarinet?
Yeah, Gabbro plays the clarinet.
yeah.
mhm.
The clarinet's a little more traditional of an instrument, but a lot of them are
Yeah.
very like folksy, kind of
Yep.
like homey
Yeah,
sort of.
which is kind of like again, it speaks to the characterizations of the characters because like
Yeah.
clarinet's kind of the outlier. Well, Gabbro's kind of a weirdo. He's
Yeah.
also the only one that's on a loop.
Yeah.
Uh,
A
um,
whistling.
and then the Nomai. God, I can't remember the Nomai's name, and I feel bad about it. But they had the piano, which again
Yeah.
is completely
Atlanta.
like it's of a different time and a different aesthetic, but it
Yeah.
still has something to
Mhm.
contribute to the song that everybody's playing. God,
Oh
it's
yeah, and the whistling too. Actually, that actually
yeah,
just
yeah, the
realizing
whistling,
like the whistling is in there too, because it's
yeah.
like it's not an instrument that you follow with with the signal scope, but it's like you hear it all the time, like every
You
loop.
can hear it if you point it at the
Oh,
Attle
can you?
Rock. Yeah, the guy who's whistling is on the Attle
Okay.
Rock on the
Okay.
moon of Timberhearth.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, let's see.
I mean, I'm kind of good. I had like a couple other points about like the speed running nature of it, or like potentially replayability, but I'm kind of good at. I don't know if
The
we want to.
speedrunners are intense.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
People just like
Yeah.
no ship shoot themselves across the world, and yeah,
And I mean, I
it's
definitely felt that during like the game where I'm like, oh man, I feel like a speedrunner. Like I'm coming in hot, so I can get in under the thing, so I can do this
Yeah.
in time. Like yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
There's a little
Again,
bit of
that's like
that,
kind of
but
a
there's
theme.
also sort of, there's also, I feel like there is room for it, and at the same time, it's a very limited space with not very much room to grow in it,
Oh sure.
because partially because the world is so consistent and progression is so knowledge based. So it
It's a
really
little
becomes
Clockwork
like,
World. Like
yeah,
Yeah,
it really
there's
just
only
becomes
so
like how,
fast that you can get to some places.
yeah,
it's a
how
solve
fast
game.
can you yeah, like once you if you assume that they have perfect information, it's like it's just how fast can you fly the ship, get to the vessel, and there's definitely tricks for that and stuff, but I don't I feel like one of the things that makes speedrunning so interesting is people finding different methods, and I just don't know. I don't know. It's not really a compelling part for me, but I guess I'm also not a speedrunner. So
Well, that's what I'm like. It when we talk about solved, like, and that's it's like I don't think that detracts from.
no.
Sometimes, like when a game is solved, it can detract from my game. Like there's just a like Dead Cells are just a best way to play, and like that's what
Hmm.
makes it. That's what makes me not like Dead Cells. It's but like for
Yeah.
this, it's like yes, everybody who's beaten the game knows how to beat the game now. So it's like you don't have anything. Yeah, maybe you can flick the mouse a little bit faster than I can or something like that. But like at the end of the day, we could
Yeah.
eventually
Yeah.
get to the same point. Like
I guess a speedrunner. I've seen a few of the tricks, and
yeah,
I feel like there's less space for a speedrunner to really find something that surprises me, and I'm like, oh, that's genius. It also just because a speedrun sort of has to be how fast can I finish the game in one loop.
yeah.
And it's sort of like that cuts out so much of the play space of the game just by the nature of the way the game exists.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, you can do it in one loop. I can do it in one loop too. You just can do it a little faster than me,
It's sort of like beating Myst once you know the end of it. Like you can just run straight to the end, put in the code, and like go get the green book and win the game.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
you can do it extremely fast, and it really does. Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
you might as well just play like Connect 4 or something.
Yeah, like there's not really mechanically interesting bugs in the game, like how Ocarina of Time speedruns are a whole different
Yeah.
beast from
Do a
actually playing Ocarina of Time.
do a backflip into this corner and
Yeah. And now you're fighting
Yeah,
Ganon. Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. If you hold this stick, it's actually
Yeah.
a code in the game. You're manipulating the actual bits to
Yeah.
change how the game is actually
Yeah.
Yeah.
coding.
So there's like partly because the game is so tightly constructed, there's not like a lot of jank like that to
Yeah.
really
I did watch IGN's dev runs react to or the devs react to the speed run, and they were talking about like so on PC because of PC's power, when you sleep, sleeping is at 10 times speed, whereas on console, it's at 5 times speed because of console's processing power. And it's like
Interesting.
and it was just like it was kind of like mind blowing, like micro mind blowing for a moment where it's just like oh yeah, it's still simulating the entire game even though I'm asleep. Like
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah.
Little
Yeah.
game design.
It's literally a little clock that has to
Oh,
run.
Yes.
and there's a really great no clip documentary about the development of this game too.
Yes.
If you haven't watched it, highly recommend.
Oh
But
yeah, that's
one of the
definitely on
things
my
they
list.
talk about that in that too is like the simulation has to always be running, but they do like abstract some things if you're not on like a planet or directly observing it. So they're like, the worst thing you can do is like put your drone on one planet and then land your ship on another planet, and then you go to a third planet and shoot a shuttle that lands. So you have like a Nomai shuttle on one planet, your ship on one
Oh my
planet, a
god,
drone
because
on
it's
one
got to
planet,
be
and you.
simulating
But then
3 planets.
it has to run all of the planets and like render all of them.
Oh
my
god.
god.
Whereas like it's still simulating them in the background normally, but like he's like, yeah, don't. He's basically like that would be the most strenuous thing. Don't do that.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
They had an achievement to do that, but then they were
Yeah,
discouraged from
they're like,
putting it.
yeah, they're like, we had an achievement, but we didn't want to. But then some of our publishers were like, maybe don't encourage people to just break the game for an achievement.
It's actually a pretty heavy game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a question.
Sure.
This is a terrible idea.
Okay.
And I understand that whatever comes at us would be terrible. But let's say that like you're kidnapped by a terrorist organization that demands that you make Outer Wilds 2, that you have to design it.
Ooh.
How would you even go about that? Like if you were forced to?
Make a completely new solar system with new planets and new puzzles.
Yeah, I mean, I think the web expands off of how many planets there are. Like the number of connections based on the planets, like make it huge. So like, if you go from 5 planets to 10 planets, now the web is like freaking,
God, that
400 bits of.
I mean, if I have to develop that, I'm not that. But I just mean like same number of planets or whatever, but just make a new Clockwork solar system for people to explore.
It cannot be quantum mechanics based. Like that puzzle's been solved. So you need to figure out a different key.
Yeah, I mean, you have to come up with new mechanics and stuff.
Like a key puzzle mechanic.
Yeah, because you're right. Yeah, because like if I know that if I still have a signal, if I still have a way to take pictures, I'm just gonna like be taking pictures of everything until I've solved your puzzle. Yeah, so it's got to have a different
spin around.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's. I mean, like new planet, new like probably new tools. Maybe not a scout that can take pictures. Maybe something else. I don't have solid dev on that in my back pocket or anything. But,
I was just curious if anyone had any. No, this is good. I thought it would be a terrible idea, but hearing you guys talk about it, actually, that doesn't sound too bad. If it was like, new stuff,
sandbox.
a new archaeology, because it's an archaeology game, like a new place to go dig stuff up.
And I think that's sort of one of Casey's last bullet points here is replayability.
Yeah.
And that's something that really, one of the most common things you will see on like Outer Wilds communities and discussion boards and stuff is people bemoaning that they can't wipe their own memory so they can experience the game again. First time.
I think I definitely got like I got the stream traffic because like I could see why people want to. Yeah. That's the way you experience it again. It's just like watching someone play through it. And
that's the closest you can get is vicariously. You watch a blind play on someone's stream.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a lot of traffic of people just like coming in, being like, and they helped. They helped alleviate some of my frustrations because I'm just like, I was like, with with the broken the prone shooter, I was like, there's only one place you can go in the prone shooter, and they're like, are you sure about that? And like I plugged in the tablet, and then I see like I was like, oh, this is just a reflection of the drone shooter. And he's like, no, look again. And it's like, oh, there's a crack in the window. How do I? And like now all of a sudden, like the wheels are spinning, and I'm like, oh, I can fly through the crack, and like that's how I get in to get to the other half of the drone shooter. And then I was like, oh, all these tablets are just pointing to the two the two columns on the drone shooter. And he's like, plug it in, see, look around, like what's different? And it's like, oh, that's the one that's at the center of the Giant's Deep. And like, okay,
that's
like,
nice.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is like you run the risk of like it's most of the people that are trying to do that, like they don't want to because it kind of ruins their own experience to spoil something for you.
Yeah.
But there's definitely room for trolling when you're playing through a game like this in a public forum as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. I think
although I don't think I think
good about it.
I was gonna say I think the Venn diagram of people who want to spoil the Outer Wilds and the people who want to watch people play the Outer Wilds mercilessly small.
Like people that are looking for Outer Wilds streams so that they can experience a first playthrough vicariously again. It's against their interests to spoil things. So.
I wonder if there is a crew of people out there who just want to, go into streams and
I don't think people like that care about the Outer Wilds or games.
Yeah, I can't picture someone being like, "Oh, this indie game is really beautiful. I can't wait to go ruin other people's experience of it."
People are busy teabagging people in COD.
I know, like
you'd have to ruining Bennett Foddy streams. Those really frustrating
I guess
platformers.
I guess that's the other angle. If like a really big streamer, if like XQC decides to do a blind Outer Wilds playthrough, people that hate XQC will just jump on his stream and try to ruin the experience for him. But
yeah,
Although his chat probably moves so fast that you'd have to spam pretty hard.
I mean, yeah, he does.
Yeah.
The one defense.
That's true.
Negatives on this game, though.
Oh yeah, we didn't really get into that.
I mean, that was gonna be like final thoughts, or what's the good, what's the bad. Wrap it up.
I don't know. I don't necessarily have any like bads. I think sometimes it would be frustrating if you hit a wall and like I think getting stuck would be the only big negative for me.
There's a couple of bads. Like I'll go over. Like I've tried to get people to play this game, and the way the ship controls just makes people nauseous, and they literally can't play it.
Interesting.
I didn't run into that at all, but
there's no way to get around it either. And
yeah, if somebody can't, they just can't, I guess.
Yeah.
It's multiple people. I've tried to.
A little bit of an accessibility problem almost.
They bought it, try to download it, and they get sick flying the ship, and like it's something about the FOV and the frame rate.
Actually, now that you mentioned that, I think a couple of times I was getting a little bit motion sick from if I was doing like a lot of spins or something. I'd be like, oh, okay, here we go. But I get that in No Man's Sky sometimes too.
It's part of the experience of flying a ship in 0G, but it's also a big barrier.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't thought about that from like an accessibility standpoint, but I think it also like, man, maybe like a setting they could do to adjust some of those things, but I also wouldn't want to sacrifice that feeling in the game.
Just an accessibility option to just have an autopilot that like doesn't also crash you into
yeah, the autopilot sucks.
There you go.
Yeah.
How many times do you autopilot to the Dark Bramble and it just puts you into the sun?
Right? That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that would happen a lot.
I stopped using it. Sort of like the landing camera. Like I ended up just sort of hard driving everything. I didn't. I honestly kind of forgot that the autopilot was a thing. For most
I would set the
playthrough.
autopilot and then when I got close to something, I would take manual control, which I guess is how you would do it on a reel.
That's how you're supposed to use it. I think it's not supposed to do everything for you.
That's how I did it.
Yeah, I just like I forgot about it for most of it, so I just manually did everything.
Another one for me, the platforming section to get to the Southern Observatory. Like I wanted to just quit. Like
it can be very frustrating. Yeah, it
was so frustrating.
With the crystals,
exactly
like
what I had to do.
Yes.
And then I would just float right past my platform, and the gravity wouldn't activate.
Yeah, I remember that a little bit. Yeah,
like
I think I did that so early, I barely remember it.
I appreciate that like they're trying to mix like certain gravity situations and like when I step away from the or just the number of times I went to like go to the lab. Like I just jump around for fun sometimes, and so like I'm like going to the black hole lab. And I like jump, and then it's like, oh great, I'm no longer attached to the gravity thing. I follow it, and I'm like, God, it was so frustrating just trying to get here, and now I have to go do that again because I accidentally hit jump.
And you've got to wait like 13 minutes because it's on Brittle Hollow, and you enough land has to fall away.
I think one of the most sort of irksome things about that too is like, if you fuck that up because you're on Brittle Hollow, fucking up that thing doesn't kill you and start your loop, so you can just like go back there and do it again. It dumps you out at the White Hole station, and you're like, well, guess I'll just slowly float and try to get back, or something. It's like if you fell and died and reset your loop, it would almost be less frustrating. In that,
I would often crash my ship into the hole first, so that then if I needed to, I could
get back to
just get into it. Yeah, from
that's next level
from the White Hole.
Yeah, that's pretty next level thinking there.
Nice. You plan ahead. I was thinking a third color, but I want a fourth color for the text that I read, so there's already red in this loop white, there's hasn't read yet in this loop purple, there's key stuff for the final for like actual mission hard stuff, and that's orange. I want a fourth color for I've already read this in a previous loop, so that I can tell, have I, like, is this completely fresh, or like, or is this something I've read in a previous one that I just need a refresher on?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because like running through the sun station, like running through the sun, the city, it's like, have I read this before? And like, have I been here, or did I actually unlock something new and while I'm messing around on the sunless station?
I have no idea what you're talking about in terms of colors. Maybe I just never picked up on
I
that.
never noticed these colors.
So I mean, when you the writing is purple when you read it, or like when you haven't read it yet, this loop, correct?
Yeah.
And then it's white after that if you like go back and revisit it. And then there's an orange, I think, if it's specific to like the final loop, or the ending of the game.
Yeah, this is the colors of the swirl of the writing swirls, right? That you're translating.
Yes. Yeah.
So like they dull when you read them and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted a fourth one that's just like, have I read? Is this the first time I'm reading this, or have I gotten back to a point that I've already been to in a previous loop? Yeah. So
I would have liked more characterization and interaction with the NPCs as well. Like, it's been a while, and I've forgotten a lot of the NPCs' names.
Sure.
Which, they're not memorable. They're not that
Yeah,
memorable.
I mean, I guess I feel like I remember all of them, and I felt like I had really good
instruments, but only the ones who play instruments.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's most of them. But I don't agree. I feel like there's actually a lot of interaction. Like every time you find a new thing, you can go talk to each person and be like, I found something, and they'll have individual things to say about it, and yeah, I don't know. I thought they were all pretty well characterized. I admit there's not a lot of incentive to like interact with them. There's not a lot of like, you need to go interact with them. They're sort of a device to give you ideas if you're stuck and stuff.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I guess mine was like, the hints they gave were like more general. I mean, one of them was like on the nose perfect, where it's like, have you ever tried going in the trench on the Ember Titan and like going down there? And I was like, no, I can do that. And so like it was like okay, that was perfectly spot on. But like none of them are gonna be hold the downward thruster while you're entering the Ash Twin thing so that you can get to the core. Like nothing's gonna. None of them are that accurate. Where it's like, I'm frustrated, I can't get into the Ash Twin core. Like, how do I do this?
I didn't even hold the downward thruster, man.
Oh wow.
Funny. I just hit under the overlook and ran out while the spout was above me. And it would catch me. I didn't even think about thrusting downward. That's smart.
I couldn't get to it unless I was thrusting downward.
Weird.
Yeah.
I agreed that there wasn't a ton of characterization with the NPCs. There was definitely some, like I remember, like I could name probably a bunch of them, but I kind of liked that they didn't have a lot of characterization because it made it feel like a little bit more of a solitary experience.
I think that's important to the experience.
Like I wasn't. It's sort of in that way that like Myst, you hardly ever talk to anyone in Myst.
Maybe that's more my point. Is like I didn't. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot, but I didn't feel like I wanted it.
Yeah, I didn't feel like that was missing because, frankly, like once I talked to the guys and like sometimes I would go back and talk to them if I happened to be on that planet, but I wasn't really like hungry to think like, oh, what do they think of this? I just kind of wanted to, I wanted to move on to the next thing, and I really liked sort of that empty, sort of solitary feeling. It's the same kind of feeling that I got in like early Minecraft, where it's like, it's kind of like a Robinson Crusoe kind of feel, like you're out here all by yourself.
Yeah. Did you? Slight sidebar: Easter eggs. Did you guys ever get to talk to yourself?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Is that in the that's in the final stuff, right? Like when you get the shadow version of you.
It's like if you go into the Ash Twin project and the sun explodes while you're in there and you leave everything plugged in and everything. If you come back on the next loop and go into the Ash Twin project, you find yourself still
Oh,
alive
that's
in it.
interesting.
And you can actually
Interesting.
there's a dialogue tree that you have where you talk to yourself.
I don't
And
think I
I
did
mean,
that.
I
one
have
of the
not seen
options is
that.
just you scream back and forth at each other like in a loop for as long as you
Nice.
want to keep screaming at each other.
Nice.
It's
Yeah,
when you
that's-
realize that there's like a couple minute difference in between loops
Nice.
Yeah.
that they overlaps, that you know that if during the subsequent loop there's a version of you still wandering around, if you're inside of the core,
Weird.
something like
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah, I mean, you literally can just go in and talk to yourself in the Ash Twin project. So
Wow.
No, I never ran into that.
yeah,
Crazy.
it's a really specific thing. But yeah, there's a few little Easter eggs like that. Here's another thing: when you break space time and it plays the kazoo version of the song, the name of that track on the soundtrack is "A Terrible Fate," which is a Majora's Mask reference.
Nice.
Kind of fun.
Well, we've done the bad. Now we can finish up with the good stuff. Just put a bow on it.
I mean, everything else we've been talking about.
Yeah, seriously.
I think
Just,
I
like
think
we've-
I've said it.
Yeah.
It's been mostly us singing the praises, I guess, for most of this.
One
Yeah,
thing about music, how we were talking about how it brings us together. It's that intimacy. Outside of the game, that just like the first 4 notes of that song will always bring me back to this game and like my fond memories of it. Like to the point where first thing I did in Animal Crossing when I could make my own village theme song was make
Ooh.
the Outer Worlds theme
I
song.
know you asked me to send you my my copy of it.
Nice. No,
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah.
shit.
You hear that anywhere with like a group of people, and like to us, that song will always ring true for us.
I've been using the soundtrack sort of myself when I feel like when I'm feeling like anxious or something and I feel like I need to sort of take a moment and feel that feeling that this game gave me. I've been sort of using the soundtrack to get myself back to that place because it's a really special place for me where I feel, it's kind of an everything's going to be all right
Definitely.
place, like in that sort of cosmic sense that all things come to an end, this too shall pass
Yeah.
sort of place.
Cool.
I mean, if it wasn't obvious, just to sort of sum up, I love this game. It's probably, if not my favorite, easily one of my very favorite games that I've ever played, one of my favorite pieces of interactive media that I've ever encountered. And this is a really profound and special experience for me. And I can't think of higher praise for a game than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know that I could say it any better. I think the themes and the gameplay is very tight, and like just everything kind of clicks and works, and it's simple but very deep, and like I think the sense of discovery and I would have never thought of like knowledge is the way to unlock the game, but like that's definitely the idea behind it, and just
knowledge-based progression system.
Yeah, that's just so. The fact that you can design around that is just ridiculous to me. So, yeah,
it's a really ballsy move to make a game like that in the age of the internet, where guides and walkthroughs are the norm.
Yeah.
And you assume that your game is going to be solved and shared with the sort of collective hive mind on the internet as soon as it comes out. It's a really ballsy move, and I think
I think about like whenever Bungie releases a puzzle for Destiny, they sort of have to make it extremely obtuse and extremely like intense, because otherwise it's going to get solved instantly.
Yeah.
So like when they do any of the ARG stuff, it's got to be so fucking obtuse that, like, you know, I mean, you think about what they did last summer with the corridors of time, where like literally you have like thousands of people each donating their like one-time code that then has to get like like there was no way a single person could do that, you know. And it is really it speaks to like just sort of the trust and the community of trust that exists within the Outer Wilds community, which is like that, you know, people are allowed to solve it on their own. And
And you know, it's such an artistic and profound experience. I think that's really helped preserve. Like, people don't want to rob people
Mhm.
of what they got to experience in this game. There's a pretty protective environment around.
Yeah, it's craziest to me was that this just started off as a student project.
Oh, I didn't know that.
If you haven't watched that
I gotta watch the No Clip documentary.
they even like, it's particularly interesting once they get to the point where the Outer Worlds was announced in the same like month that they were gonna release.
And everyone, fuck.
Is you get a bunch of the development crew talking about sort of how they reacted to that, and it's very interesting. I highly recommend that No Clip documentary.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for the future where people who were inspired by this game start making games.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also can't wait to see what Mobius does next. I haven't seen what their new what projects they're working on now, but very excited for the future of this studio.
Also, the guy that plays Hiro Takamura in Heroes is
Masayoka. It's Masayoka's like company. He co-founded it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's the co-founder of Mobius. that always brings joy to my heart.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess he came from like a VFX background, which is kind of interesting. So.
What?
Masayoka, yeah, Hiro Nakamura.
And then he just happened to, he was like VFX, and then he just happened to play Hiro Nakamura in like 4.5 seasons of.
A lot of people still go to you got to pay the bills while you're going to auditions, you know.
I guess so. Yeah, that's very true. That's just crazy. That's crazy to me. Like.
And then after that, he was like, you know what? Video games.
All right. Well,
I'll open my own game company.
Yeah. All right. I will wrap it up here, but thanks, viewers, for watching. That wraps it up for this month's episode of The Friend Zone. I want to thank Stephen, Min, and Kevin for taking the time to talk to me about The Outer Wilds. I really enjoyed it. I thought it had a lot of really good themes. I just love the death. I love this game to death. I think I agree with Stephen's sentiment about this being kind of a very mature game. Kind of showing how video games have matured over time. I just love all the themes and the style and the mechanics, and I think all of that kind of comes together to make a really good and solid game. And I hope you enjoyed it too. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this content. If you do, follow, like, and subscribe to me on YouTube and Twitch so you can see more great content like this. I hope you have a super day. I hope you have a super month. And I hope you have a super day.